Welcome. This is really exciting for me. Welcome to the Why Reading podcast. Today, I have somebody who's really important in this community. I have Todd here with me from the Chamber, and there's a lot of reasons I wanted to bring Todd here to come and talk to everybody about our amazing community and the opportunities that exist within. But Todd is the head of the Chamber of Commerce, and that is something that some people know a lot about and a lot of people know very little about. So to get us started, could you please introduce yourself and let us know your role at the Chamber and take it away from there.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Todd Jones, and I'm the president and CEO of the Reading Chamber of Commerce. The Reading Chamber of Commerce has been around for 119 years in Reading. 119 years. We've been around.
Reading?
Reading, I think, is about 100. Oh, I should know the answer to that. I think it's like 125, something like that. I really should know the answer to that right off the top of my head, like ready to go. But we've been around for about 119 years, which is incredible. And we were organized originally all those many, many years ago to actually advocate against freight increases from getting freight from San Francisco to Reading. So it's always really been an advocacy organization, and it has a really rich history. I mean, it started so many things in our community. Leadership Reading was formed out of the Reading Chamber of Commerce. Now it's independent. The Shasta EDC also came out of the Reading Chamber of Commerce back in the 50s. We also right now run Visit Reading, which we've had that contract for about 4 years with this in partnership with the city of Reading, and it's just a really cool organization. Just so many things that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more as we go. But I grew up in Weaverville, but my family's all from the Reading area.
Okay.
And it's funny, I had a conversation with a friend on Saturday, and I said, "Oh, my dad's from Central Valley," and they were transplants to Reading, and they're thinking in their mind like, "Oh, like Modesto, Fresno." Right. I'm like, "No, Central Valley. They're from Central Valley." They had no clue what I was talking about, but that is now the city of Shasta Lake. But we always used to call it CV. Everyone that's local is like it's CV or Central Valley. Yeah. So my family's all from here. Grew up in Weaverville. Was in the Marine Corps after high school. I actually came to Reading professionally for the first time after graduating college from Humboldt State. I came back to work for Congressman Wally Herger, who represented this area for about 26 years.
Okay.
And then I did a few other things. I worked at the EDC and ran the EDC for about 4 years. I was there for 8 years. I also ran Startup Reading, which was part of the EDC before I took over as CEO of the EDC. And then 2 years ago, Opportunity, which there's not a lot of turnover at the Chamber. My predecessor and good friend Jake Mangus went on to Mercy Foundation North. And I thought, you know what? Reading's a small town. This is a great opportunity, and made the jump over.
So you're obviously really involved, and it seems to be a passion for you to be connected to these wonderful organizations and the way that you've worked yourself through. What is it that really spearheads your passion for being a part of the EDC, or took you from those roles or got you into those roles to get started?
Yeah, so I've always loved government and politics. And when I worked for Congressman Herter, again, I was in my 20s. I met my wife, which is really the reason we stayed here. Originally, I was going to go to D.C., where I was stationed in the Marines and work in politics and all those things, but decided to stay here. And I just love the community. I mean, I got plugged in really quickly. When you work for a congressman as a field rep, you go to all the things. You go to all the events, and you meet all the people. And so I really met a lot of people, and I really started to see a lot of the challenges and opportunities in Shasta County, but a lot of the challenges, and there's a small-ish group of people. I always say it's like 600 people do all the things. We go to all the events, we write all the checks, we do all the fundraisers, and it's a small group of people. And one of the great parts about the North State is if you want to get involved, I think it's really relatively easy, because once you get involved, you get plugged in, and it's never ending. There's just so many opportunities. And I think the people that can see through all of the different challenges, which I like to think I do, you can kind of see where the intersections are, and you can say, okay, how can I lean in here and maybe help make a change here? And really, that's one of the things that attracted me to the Chamber so much, is that we are a 501c6. We are a advocacy organization of an association of members that try to help improve the community. I mean, that's really what the Chamber's all about.
I like how you phrase that there are challenges. I mean, we always like to be positive, and we really like to speak to the future opportunities, but you have to be realistic to see where your community is and what they're struggling with, and what can be the opportunity within that struggle. And I think that Reading has, like any community, has plenty of that. we're really growing a lot, and we have in the years that I've been here, and there's been changes throughout that you can speak to. I mean, our airport,
Yeah.
our industrial growth that's happening out in that area, bringing in larger business,
Yep.
bringing in more commerce, bringing in people who see the value in coming to an area like this. What are some of the steps, and what are some of the ways that maybe we don't recognize people go, and how do you collect people, and how do you shine a light on our community through the work that you're doing to bring people and say, you know what, maybe you haven't heard of us, or maybe you need to hear of us, or maybe what you've heard isn't true.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do?
Yeah, that's good. So when I was at the EDC, the EDC's big focus is business attraction. They also do air service development and startup reading. Those are kind of the big three, and plus business expansion. And I felt like I was kind of in a role where I was marketing and trying to attract people to come. And when I came to the chamber, I felt like, hey, I'm really more in a business development role now. I'm in a position where we can actually influence some things to make Reading more attractive. Focus on things like quality of life and really attract people to Reading. And one of the things I love at the chamber right now is that we have the opportunity to run Visit Reading, which is a contract through the city of Reading. And I really feel like Visit Reading is like the tip of the spear for outreach to the outside world. We spent last year probably about $200,000+ on direct ad spend in places like LA, San Francisco, Reno, Portland, Seattle, places where we see people coming from. We're not spending a lot of money on the East Coast because we don't see as many travelers, but focus on those markets where people come from. And a lot of times the first impression they're going to have of Reading is tourism. They're going to come to the lake, they're going to go on a houseboat, they're going to go fly fishing, they're going to go mountain biking, they're going to do one of these things. And so having Visit Reading as part of the chamber is super complimentary because we can spend that money and focus on, the positives and highlight the natural recreation, which is such a benefit for our area. And people will come and see that. And then hopefully, we can do talent attraction. We can help recruit them, work with the hospitals and say, hey, let's create itineraries. Let's make things that are going to make us more attractive. And then at the chamber, help support that development and help support making Reading a better place to be. And one of the things that we've done well, I think, in highlighting over the last 5 years was the Reading City Identity Project, which was before my time at the helm. I was on the board at the time. And we did things like we funded Garden of Lights for the designer to come. We did Electric Alley and Umbrella Alley, and we funded the first venture conference part of it. And so we did all these things to say, how can we shine a positive light on our community? Because I think one of the challenges we see is a lot of people in Reading are really down on themselves. And there's a lot of negative stuff on social media, but there's so much opportunity and there's so much good things going on. And the more we can do to shine a light on the positive things through Visit Reading, through the chamber, through our partners like the EDC and Viva Downtown, and countless other organizations. It's hard to kind of combat some of the bad sometimes, but there's so much great things going on.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I think that was, before I moved here, I was an online stalker of Reading.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Yeah.
My move was directed because of my husband's career, and I was excited because I had heard mountains, lakes, and rivers, and I was like, game on.
Yeah.
Feed my soul. I'm from Idaho. Let's do this. And so it was exciting. And I moved here during the pandemic. And so I wasn't able to come and visit first. I was coming from actually New York City. I was coming from out east, and I couldn't fly. And so I was online, and I was reading so much negativity that I thought, there's no way this can all be true, because, I know what this area is like from growing up not too far away. And that was something that really became an impetus for me for starting this podcast and doing Why Reading, is because when I had the opportunity to come here, I did have people come up to me and say, why Reading?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to find out why Reading. I could have gone anywhere, and I chose this for a reason. I think that there's some really fun opportunities that are happening with our riverfront, with our downtown. But when I sometimes find myself in conversations with some of the naysayers, you try really hard to be the positive spin on that. How has your role, and how have some of the, because you're taking some of that negativity, and you're dispelling it, and you're like, when people said that when we couldn't have Turtle Bay, look at it, it's
Yeah.
thriving.
Yeah.
With the downtown, oh, we've tried things like that before and it didn't work, and it seems like every 3 years we throw something at the wall and hope it sticks. And we are, I mean, crushing it downtown. We have so many new bars, restaurants, boutiques. You can walk and feel safe downtown. That was something when I had a chance to speak with Danny Orloff at Visit Reading. It's just really exciting to see what steps have been taken. How has it been from your seat to get started, and how do those conversations start, and who are the people? Because you say there's 600 people or so that get really active.
It's kind of a random number, but yeah.
Yeah, but I get it, because I you do see some of you see the same faces in the same circle, but there's a lot that's happening. From your standpoint, how do those conversations begin? And when you're saying like, okay, let's connect the downtown to the trail system, and let's expand the sidewalks. And a lot of people say, well, we don't have the money.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, I think, when you see a lot of the progress downtown specifically, I mean, downtown has been 25 years in the making to where we are today. In 2026, it's been like 25 years. And Steve Bate, who was our previous assistant city manager, he was the redevelopment guy for the city of Reading. And those conversations, and I don't want to get super technical, but they started a long time ago. I remember as a kid going to the downtown mall, in that covered mall, and there's still kind of remnants of it, obviously, around downtown right now. And they went through this iteration of taking off the roof and then redeveloping it and then taking down the Dickers building and then building what they have. And, kudos to the Knots and K2 for having a long-term vision as well, because they partnered many, many years ago, decades ago now, to get to where we are today. And I think Reading does a really good job of getting its unfair share of money from the state of California and looking for opportunities, because honestly, as much as we complain about the state of California, downtown would not be possible without the state of California, without housing and community development, and the Knots, K2 and their team saying, we're going to go find this money, we're going to be very competitive, and we're going to do the things that we need to do to check all the boxes to say we can bring, hundreds of millions of dollars to our downtown. There's things that we have to do for solar and transportation and bike lanes, but we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. And through partnership, which I think is really what it comes down to, partnerships and relationships is what Reading thrives on. And so the K2, the city, CRDC, other organizations coming together to say, we have this long-term vision for downtown Reading. This is how we're going to get there. And then they found opportunities with the state of California to help fund that. And they made it happen. So I think it's just long-term vision. It's long-term vision. We think of the Northern Riverfront right now, and, I don't know what the Northern Riverfront's going to look like in 10 years or 15 years, but I think there are people in this community that are thinking of that now, and we're making steps to get there. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's a long game. Everything in Reading is a long game for sure.
It is, but finding the people that believe in it, that have, and it's not always coming from people that have a connection or a touchstone or were raised here. And I think that's really been interesting to me, is to meet people who have come from outside of the community, like myself, that gravitate towards the benefits that we've received from being here. Community support. There's a local, everybody knows everybody, and that can be in any small town, a good and a bad.
Right.
And so you have these conversations with folks that, finding, I think sometimes, like you say, finding the right people that believe in the steps. I'm curious, there's got to be, I don't come from the business aspect of growth like that. There's got to be an equation or, a set of numbers that you say, if you have X amount of people, 90,000 people, then this is what the dollar amount spend can be, or this is what the business amount, what you can handle this many dentists, you can handle this many accountants, and, then you kind of peaked out. How much of those kinds of conversations go into work in the chamber and highlighting people who are trying to build their businesses, or kind of that accountability that it brings to the business, and highlighting what people are trying to do and build?
Yeah. I think when you think about business attraction, kind of putting on my old hat at the EDC, and then thinking about the businesses that are here in town right now, we think about Reading's 90,000 people, the median income is this, the household income is this. They're looking at these stats, but they go beyond the stats. You talk to a guy like Ken Miller, who's one of the big commercial realtors in town that does a lot of the big box deals, and I think what people often forget, especially when they're looking to start a business, grow a business, or move a business to the Reading area, is it's not just 90,000 people, right? We're serving MSA, metropolitan statistical area, but it goes beyond that. I was on the phone with a friend from Alturas this morning, and she comes to Reading a lot of times. I mean, sometimes we go other places, but we serve a big geographic area. Growing up in Trinity County, I have family in Tehama County. I have family in Siskiyou County. They're coming to Reading for those services, for healthcare, for shopping. And so I think the equation doesn't always work, because you look at a Costco as a great example. A Costco in Reading does probably about $120 to $140 million in sales per year. And for a population like Reading, a lot of the stats don't add up, because they'll say, oh, that's too much for a small town. But we're serving such a big area that we actually, kind of out punch our weight class in terms of what we can handle in Reading. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth.
I don't know that you're the exact right person to ask this question to, but here it comes.
Yeah.
As I've been here, I've seen, when I first arrived, it was everything on Hilltop. And it's just a lot of chain store. And then as I've seen our area kind of shift and change, I guess, how do I phrase this? When I see new chain businesses coming in, like when we got the first Panera, people went crazy. And so does the chamber and does your role play any part in establishing who comes, what businesses are able to come? Like, could there ever, I'll just say, I would not like to see a chain established in downtown. I don't want to see a P.F. Chang's pop up down there, but it's a conversation because we're growing. It's things like that are happening here. Does the chamber play any role in that?
We don't really have any role in the attraction of businesses. There are people that will call us. Rogue Credit Union is a great example. They called us at the chamber years ago before they actually acquired Members First Credit Union. This is not a retail. This is a bank. But they called us to say, hey, what's the market like? Where can we go? We didn't know at the time they were looking at acquiring Members First, and maybe they weren't either. They were looking at coming into our market, and now they're going to come down from Southern Oregon to Reading. So we have conversations with people call us all the time. People call me all the time about what's there, what fits, what's commercial rates, what's all these things. Like, I'm just kind of a catch-all for a lot of things, but we don't make the decision. It's the market decision, right? We got the chain, whatever it is, whatever chain restaurant you want to pick. It's really market forces, right? People are coming, they see opportunity, they see what else does well. And these businesses have so much data. And, they know what habits are. They know, chicken's really popular right now. I used to go to ICSC, which is the big retail convention show. Chicken's popular, car washes are popular, and it's market. It's the market, right? They're good businesses. They're very profitable. They have a lower cost of goods. They know that Reading is going to support these because we support all these other businesses. So they have so much data, and I would say 8 times out of 10, it's a data-driven decision to enter a market. But we certainly want to make it more attractive, right? What can we do with zoning? I'm on a lot of general plan meetings, which we had a general plan adopted last year. How can we make it better for the downtown specific plan to, be business friendly? Because zoning is very nuanced, and they say, well, you can't have this type of business here, but when you really peel back a layer, it looks so much different than it did years ago. Obviously, we're never going to get like a Costco downtown. That'd be ridiculous. Or but we could get a, P.F. Chang's or something. The zoning would not disallow that to happen.
Right.
But it's certainly, we have two sides of town. We have Hilltop and we have downtown. Those are kind of the two major areas. And, the mall many, many years ago kind of brought a lot of things across this side of the river, the Mount Shasta Mall specifically. And when you're talking to Restoration Hardware and Pottery Barn and all these places, they want to be within like a half a mile of the power centers. Right. So the Costco's, the Targets, the Walmarts. And so that also dictates their decision making. You're not going to get a Restoration Hardware to come downtown. You might get one to come on this side of town, maybe, because they want to be so close to those other stores. But there's just a lot of market decisions.
There's a lot of reasons for that, right? I mean, traffic flow, parking, all the different.
All the
so
things.
Many different reasons.
And zoning is a big one.
Yeah. What is something that makes you really optimistic about Reading right now?
I'm optimistic about Reading because I think that we have a lot of opportunities. I think I try to be as optimistic as I can about California, even though we have a lot of challenges here. But we're still a cheaper place to live. We still have better quality of life. We have great schools, and we have great outdoor recreation. So I am optimistic about Reading because I think we certainly have not stopped growing. I think we've plateaued a little bit for the last few years, but we have a ton of upside still. We have a lot of land. We have cheap power with Reading Electric Utility, which is probably our biggest benefit for business in our community is REU. REU is about half the cost of the average cost for power in the state of California. REU is a game changer. REU is the best decision the city of Reading has ever made to found REU about 110, 115 years ago. Best decision the city's ever made. And that's a big competitive advantage. The fact that a large commercial customer, and I'm getting kind of in the weeds, can pay about they can pay about 10 cents a kilowatt hour, where if you're in the county, if you're within PG&E, which no knock to PG&E, they have a very different business model. That customer could be paying 25 to 35 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a huge difference. So the fact that we have REU, which is affordable, reliable, sustainable, it's a game changer for us. And so I think that's a big competitive advantage, especially when the demand for power for data centers and all these other things are increasing. REU is going to be an attractive place to be because of REU. And it's good for residences too. I mean, your power bill in the city of Reading is so much different than it would be if you were outside of the city.
Trust me,
it's a huge difference. Huge difference.
That can be a decision maker for people choosing their property, where they're going to live within the community.
Yeah.
That I hear that daily.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Well, and it's a big deal for so many reasons because, I mean, in any family, no matter who you are, everybody's talking about how to be their best, how to thrive, and the cost of living and the cost of groceries and the cost of gas. And, and that is really interesting. I had not known that. What would you say to somebody considering moving here that doesn't know, I think that when I first was coming to this area, a lot of people said that we're a medical hub for the North State. Through my eyes, has grown. We've got the new cancer center coming, and there's a lot of people who really want to support and want to bring more here. And it's tough in any community to bring medical professionals in. It's hard to find them. They're not. It is prevalent in any community. So what is something that you're seeing that's working in that way?
I think the residency programs at the between Shasta Community Health, Shasta Regional Medical Center, and Mercy Medical Center, I think the residency programs are helping in trying to match, because the match program is so wild to me for residency. It's so crazy. But trying to get the people that actually would fit this area, the ranking between the hospitals and the ranking between the, those medical students coming out of medical school, trying to find people that are going to fit our area and then matching with them and have that higher chance to get people to stay here. I think that's a huge thing. So the residency programs, the growth of the residency programs, but I think a lot of it, it seems like there's less doctors going into medical school, or there's less students going to medical school right now. And so I think it seems like it's a national issue to some degree. But I think quality of life is a big reason. One of my best friends, who's from Trinity County, which helps, came back, and he's one of the owners of Prestige Medical Care, which is a great model. And he's from here, so he has a bias. He has a reason to come here. But how do you get those other people that want to live in the North State and have access to outdoor recreation? Because that's the big selling point. We all know they can make more money somewhere else. That's not a secret to anybody. But how do we get people that want that lifestyle?
It's a quality of life.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle issue.
It is 100% a quality of life. And that was the draw for us. We could have gone anywhere, but we chose to come here to raise our children because of the schools. We chose to come here because the cost of living is less, and we can do more with our day. We don't have to spend as many hours in the car trying to get to and from our home. We can spend far less and be like, you know what? I'm going to hit the trail before I get home today.
Absolutely.
I don't have enough time that I don't have to tell the kids. I don't have to tell my husband that I went and, caught a ride. And I think that there's been so many cool things that, like with the Ironman coming, that highlight the tourism, the trail systems, the outdoor opportunities. What are some of the other things that you think that other communities could take away from what we're doing right?
I think this is a little bit intangible, but the connection that we have in our community. Like you get plugged in and you're connected to people. So you might come for the mountain biking, hunting, fishing, whatever it is. But I think the people in the community, if you can get plugged in, which is a choice for people to make. Like there's so many different groups of people.
It's
and
an active choice.
You
don't
have
just
to
walk
do it.
in and
Yeah.
find yourself. You make an effort in this community, but when you do,
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, I know it can be hard. It's daunting, right? To come into a new community, you might not know anybody at all to get plugged in. But once you get plugged in, I think that's why people stay, because whatever you're passionate about, there's probably a group that is doing that same thing. And so whether it's kids or whatever the thing is, sports, recreation, soccer, there's a way to get plugged into this community. And I think that community connection is what makes us different. And I work with a lot of partners around the North State. And I'm biased, obviously. I think the North State and Shasta County and Redding is really, really special. But I go to these other communities or these other chamber events in other counties, and it's just not the same. Obviously I'm not from there, but I'm biased. I think that the connection that we have to each other, because we're kind of on an island, right? If you lived in like Walnut Creek, you're next to Livermore and Pleasant Hill and all these other places, Concord. You can live in one city, work in the other city, be a transplant, go somewhere else. Like, yes, we only have 3 cities, Anderson, Shasta Lake, and Redding, of course, but we're all connected. And we all need to kind of support ourselves. And I think that's what we really do a good job in, is supporting each other, because we don't have a choice. We're not going to, live here and work in Sacramento. There's some people that do that, but it's not common.
Right.
Like we live here, we work here, we support each other. And I think that's what makes us special.
that's wonderful. What are 2 to 3 takeaways or things that you think that an individual, if they've been thinking like, I like this community, I would like to do more. What are 2 to 3 things that you think that somebody on that side of the page could do to become more involved and to be more active in seeing the positive turn of our community?
I think number 1, join the Redding Chamber of Commerce. That's probably the most important one. And then we have greeters every Thursday. So we have about 100 people every Thursday that meet at a different business around town. And we're booked the entire year of 2026. We are booked for every Thursday, which is incredible. And it's an in-demand thing, and people are getting connected. And then, find other things that you're interested in. Go to those sporting events or find a church, whatever it is that you're interested in. Once you get connected to a group of people, it's really easy to find those other opportunities. And I think the Chamber is a great way. We follow us on social media. We try to share what's happening, not just at the Chamber, but what's happening in the community. And I think that's a big way. And then if you're really bored, you can go to city council meetings, which I love to do, and hear what's going on.
And they're not boring. It's a form of entertainment in its own.
For sure. Yeah. And I think depending on your life, like kids, obviously, right? Now I have 3 boys. I'm in sports all the time, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's like its own community. But it's people I see at work or in the community, and then we just happen to coach against each other on the football field or something. So I think that's really, sports, you get plugged in really quick to the community, for sure.
Well, we're an athletic community.
Yeah.
You can come here and watch TV and be comfortable and happy. But if you are desiring to be active and to be involved, it's a place to thrive.
Yeah.
Tell people out there that, because like I say, there's a handful that know all about you and the Chamber. Where can people that don't know, that want to know more, where can they go and find more information?
Yeah, so reddingchamber.com is our website. We also have visitredding.com, which is, of course, our visitors bureau. But reddingchamber.com, you can learn about events coming up. We have 4 big events a year. We have greeters every single week. We have after hours every month. And so there's a lot of ways to get plugged in. And like I've said before, we're a very connected, plugged in community. And I think the Chamber, the big secret sauce of the Chamber of Commerce is this community is all about relationships. And so if you can join a group like the Chamber, join a group like Rotary, we have 5 Rotaries as well, you can get plugged in really quickly. And this town is all about relationships, and business is all about relationships and doing business with people Yeah. So if you're in the Chamber, it's going to help, shorten that gap from the distance to other people in the community. And the Chamber is a great place. So the Chamber, again, we do a lot of networking events with greeters and after hours. We do advocacy. We do some big fundraisers. We just had our Legends and Leaders Gala a couple weeks ago. We have a golf tournament in the fall. We do State of the City in September with the mayor, whoever the mayor is that year, I get to partner with, which is fun. And so it's about staying connected. It's about relationships. And it's about, how can we collectively work together to make Redding better? And how can we make Redding the best place in California to do business, which is really the vision of the Redding Chamber of Commerce.
I love it. I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing your time, because I know you're incredibly busy and there's a lot of people that you get to speak to and highlight our community and really speak to the good. And I appreciate your candor and being honest and saying that, you know what, there are some challenges, but putting the right people in the right seat, and you are clearly that person in the right seat to be an advocate, to work against the things that maybe are holding us back in some aspects. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. You can find so much information on the Reading State Chamber. You can go and rewatch this on the Why Reading podcast on my website, CassandraSanMayer.com. And this has just been a wonderful time. And we got to say thank you to guys like this that do so much for our community.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.